Hi, I'm Jamie Denbo, professional in many areas. Don't be alone with this professional, Jay Kogan.
Don't be alone with Jay Kogan.
That's a long note. This is me, Jay Kogan. I have been, you've been warned not to be alone with me, but here we are again together. I'm thrilled that whoever's listening, and I don't know who would possibly be listening other than me, listening to this over and over again.
No, it's important. It's important to go over your own stuff.
Jay, I'm glad you're listening. I hope you're well.
Hi, Jay.
I hope things are good for you, Jay.
They are.
This is Don't Be Alone with Jay Kogan, a podcast about staying connected in a very disconnected world. That's the whole reason I made the podcast.
That is such a good intention.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I'm a good person.
I know.
Not always, but all right. But anyway, I'm your host, Jay Kogan, and if you have any questions or comments, we do viewer mail every week. Please write into dbawjaykogen at gmail.com. That's Don't Be Alone with Jay Kogan, at gmail.com, and I will answer them as quickly and politely as I can. Anyway. I am sitting here with my friend Jamie, and I will give her a proper introduction in a second. But I was thinking about this, which is fear. Sometimes I'm afraid. I'm afraid to write. I'm afraid to show up to things. Sometimes I'm afraid to say hello. Sometimes I'm afraid to call somebody out of the blue. Before I was married, I was afraid to ask girls out on dates. I was afraid to do things because I was afraid I would suck, or I was afraid to be rejected, or I was afraid that I would fail in many ways. And we don't want to be revealed, or I don't want to be revealed as a talentless hack, as an imposter, all the things that go through your mind that stop you from doing the things that you want to do. And I would sublimate that fear often by eating and by doing other things to sort of calm the waters. But I did find a way to function, which was I did eat and I did calm myself down, and I was able to actually become a comedian, become an actor, become a writer, do things. And sometimes I failed and sometimes I succeeded. But the trick is, how do we do that? How do we deal with our fears? And so I want to give you a full introduction.
Okay,
so anyway,
full
this is my
introduction.
guest, Jamie Denbo.
Leo.
Leo from Swampscott, Massachusetts.
Indeed.
Who I've known for a solid 30 years, something like that.
Just about.
We worked together on a pilot, and
My first real pilot job, and it was so good.
and we had so much fun. And you are an incredibly talented actress, a funny comedian. Turns out you're a great writer. I didn't know that at the time, but now you're a great writer.
Check.
And you know, she's had many successes. She created a show called American Princess.
Yep, I think it's like $9.99 if you're Amazon Prime. It's $29.99 if you're not.
Now, lately, you've been doing a show with your husband called Super Married with John. What's his name? John Ross Bowie.
John Ross Bowie.
Bowie. That's right.
That's
Bowie.
all right.
Like David.
Why I didn't take his
like
name.
David Bowie.
Correct.
Yep. It's not Bowie.
And
It's
the famous
Bowie.
and the famous Bowie knife.
Yes, exactly. And then, so you've been writing lately on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, that makes no sense at all.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Anyway.
With you there is no storm that we can't weather. We may be lost, but we're lost together.
I don't know what our affinity has been. This is what interesting to, because whenever I've had something, anything that you could do, I've called you and said, will you please do it? There's something about you performing that's great, something about just your, I don't know what the simpatico is, but there's something about you that really strikes me as somebody I instantly liked and instantly carried a personality with you wherever you go that appeals to me. So I don't know what that is.
Thank you. I mean, I feel so lucky to have been in the orbit of Jay Kogan since the beginning of my career, really, which has been such a wonderful thing to keep cycling back to. Like, I would wind up doing just, if it wasn't the pilot initially, which should have gone.
Yes.
What's up, Peter Fuddy?
Sure.
It was fucking great.
That was great.
Am I allowed to swear on this?
Sure.
But to always kind of come back to getting the privilege of being part of a Jay Kogan project in some way was just such a badge of honor for me and always has been. So I don't know what it is, but I'm glad it exists.
Well, me too.
This magnet energy.
So I want to ask you about this subject of fear. Now, you started doing improv at the UCB, and you've had shows, and you've risked a lot. Every audition, every time that you've been with, any kind of creative endeavor, it's a scary thing. And we were just now talking about, and I want to back up.
Sure.
We were just now talking about, there was a moment in your life recently where you felt like everything was sort of taken off the table.
Yep.
And you were just at a creative, you said rock bottom.
Yep.
And you had to start up again.
Yep.
So that's a perfect example of the moment when you have to either, fight your fear and do something, or just collapse.
Okay, well, it's so interesting. I love this question so much because, I think of myself as a terrified human being. I think, I don't know any comedic-minded people, creative comedians or comedic creatives who don't live in an existential dread most of the time. And it's very simple, right, to say that, we're just masochists, and that's why we continue to put ourselves up for possible rejection. And, you go up in front of a huge group of people knowing there is a very strong possibility, 50-50 chance you could bomb and be hated by a large number of people.
Oh, 50-50. You're giving yourself much better odds.
Yeah, I'm giving myself good odds. I'm realizing as soon as I said it, I was
no,
it's not great. But I was like, so what, and how must that look to what I'll call as civilians, normies, civilians, people out in the world who do what we call real jobs and have real existences that are just more conventional, right? Certainly more consistent, more secure, more career paths that have a real guarantee of what they will look like. And they think we're nuts. They think we must be absolutely insane. But I realize the motivating factor for me is fear of being stuck in a career where I am miserable or don't know what I would be doing. I am terrible at math. That counts out a large number of professions. My father was a CPA, is a CPA still. Ugh, that's another conversation, is when he's going to retire. Who knows? I knew I wasn't capable of all the jobs that involve numbers.
Right.
So I lived in fear of being forced into a job where I had to deal with numbers, and or I would get a job with numbers and then I wouldn't be able to do it. That would be even more humiliating. Then there's the jobs that involve offices and business plans, or that. Those, I was so scared of the conventional life that I was like, I'm not as afraid to put myself on stage and look silly, because even at the beginning, I knew that an audience is ever changing.
But what's so scary about an office?
Oh my God, the idea of being confined to the same view for 8 hours
the
a day.
sameness. So the sameness. You're afraid of living the same day over and over again.
I'm really afraid of living the same day. I was afraid. I think I had examples of. I grew up in suburban Boston, Swampscott, and there was so much sameness all around me. And I think like a lot of children of the 70s, 80s, 90s, we were fed a steady stream of pop culture that was exciting. And every story felt like you leave this behind. But the people I lived around didn't none of them intended to leave it behind.
Right.
So I was like, you guys are nuts. Like, why would you... This is what you want to do, what your father does?
Right.
You want to take over his business with his stationery store? What is happening? And the doctor thing looked real hard.
Right.
I wasn't good in academic classes. It's not that I was failing. I could definitely get through.
Sure.
And I was literate and I was managing, but I couldn't help but think, I'm the only one of my childhood friends that doesn't have a master's degree, doesn't have an advanced degree of some kind. So all I could think was like, you want more school? Right.
But I mean... This is calling them crazy is weird. You're the weirdo. In other words, there's a comfort in going back to your dad's stationery store because you know how it works. And
but it's so boring. Boredom is a real motivator for me. Yeah. The idea of there's nothing boring about the life that we have chosen. It is risky. It's high risk. It is high reward.
Right.
I've lived long enough now to know that even the failures and the all-encompassing misery of low points is not, they're not eternal, you know? And I also, I don't know. I think I learned early on, this is the other thing. I had a really interesting experience where once I graduated college with a degree in communications, which was really a degree in smoking pot and watching movies.
No,
right?
communications is nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, truly nothing.
Right.
And now there's even more versions of nothing degrees, which is fascinating. But like, I was like, I don't know what happens now.
Right.
And that was because I was too afraid to be a theater major. I had applied to be a theater major. I got into these theater programs, and then I backed out last minute because I thought, well, those aren't real jobs. I'll just sit and watch movies, I guess. That'll be my job. So no great rationale there. But I graduated college, and I thought, okay, you know what? I'll do summer stock. That sounded like a thing people do. You go and you have a summer in a tiny playhouse, and you do Our Town, and maybe have a love affair and move on.
And that's how you become a successful business person.
Correct. Exactly. And then I can go back to
Right.
whatever my real world job
Right.
will be someday.
Yeah.
So I was not a trained actor. So I went to the New England Theater Conference auditions, which were mass cattle calls for all these theaters. And I was up there with Berkeley grads and NYU grads and BU grads from the School of Fine Arts, these professional people. I was terrible. I got one call back. It was for a Renaissance Festival. I didn't know what a Renaissance Festival was. This was before Google.
Right.
It wasn't the joke of the zeitgeist yet. Like nobody really had ever heard of it.
Right.
I looked at the brochure, did not read it properly, and thought, it's Shakespeare in the Park. I got a job doing Shakespeare in the Park. Check me out.
Wow, you're so much dumber than I thought you were.
Super dumb.
Wow, I had no
so
idea.
Dumb.
Oh
lazy,
my gosh.
Lazy.
Yeah.
Couldn't even open the
Wow.
brochure. On the front, there was a Shakespearean-looking lady, and I thought, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I drove 5 hours in my dad's car to Lake Ontario and worked at a Renaissance Festival. And while it was also just a completely culture shock for me,
Right.
it was also my first understanding that there is a life for performers and for writers and creatives that exists between Fry Cook and Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
And I think at that point, that's when I started being less afraid. Because say what you will, I was really good at working at the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah.
And I was around people who functioned, who were not homeless. Some of them were on the road in their RVs all year long,
Sure.
but they were functional human beings. Some of them even had children that they took care of who lived working in this weird middle ground. And that's when I started to see all the things that you don't see if you're not looking for them, which is that people can live creative lives at any level without being huge stars.
So the revelation was show business or creative life is not just the top stratosphere or homelessness.
Or failure.
There's something in between. Okay.
And you don't grow up thinking that. You grow up watching the Oscar ceremony, and you think that's the only
Well,
worthy
you grow
goal.
up thinking. I grew up knowing that exists because my dad was a mid-level television writer. So I knew
Oh my
that there
gosh,
was.
did you grow up in Los Angeles?
I did.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, and my father was not more than a mid-level. He was a very successful television writer, but I knew that you could.
I had no idea.
That was the stationery store. To
had no
me, working in Hollywood was like, okay, I know that you can have those careers and they exist. The other thing that was also has been interesting now in 2023 is that the staid career of people in offices, that doesn't exist anymore.
No.
People leave jobs every 3 years
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's no stability anyway.
Oh,
so
no.
why not be in show business?
Exactly. I mean, I have to say, during the pandemic, when a lot of my more conventional careered friends out in the world were panicking because people were getting laid off, and I was like, oh, what? Are you worried about? Oh, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm not working right now because
Right.
sometimes you're working, right? And then sometimes you're not.
Right.
Like, that's how it, so for me, I was very used to that. And I wasn't as horrified and upset by it.
So back to the moment where a couple of years ago you said, I need to do something.
Yes.
What were you afraid of? What were you afraid of in that moment? And then how did you get past that fear, or how did that fear drive you to do the stuff that you needed to do?
So the one thing I will say, the one mistake, but inevitable mistake that I made is that I attached myself to two very specific forms of performing and 2 very specific stories that I told myself, which was I always wanted to tell the story about the Renaissance Festival because it was so revelatory for me and it was such an exciting time. And I also imagined it always as Private Benjamin at the Renaissance Festival. So I knew it was like I had done the one-person show about it. That's probably how I got my agent. I don't even remember anymore. You know, things like that. And it felt like I was very attached to that story. I'm the Ren Fair girl. I'm that girl that like makes fun of the Ren Fair, but also like loves it. Isn't that funny? Right? So I was that. And then I also had a comedy act called Rana and Beverly. And that found a lot of success in the alternative comedy world. So I was either my alter ego Beverly, the Jewish Yenta from Swampscott, Massachusetts, or I was Ren Fair girl. And I had this idea that those are the things that define me. If I had a business card, I would either have one that said both of them, or I would have 2 separate business cards and they would say one or the other. And that was what I was good at. And that was, in my mind, why I had worked so much as an actor, because somebody had seen Beverly or somebody had seen the Ren Fair thing. Or why I got to write that movie, because, that never got made. I write a lot of movies that never get made.
Me too.
You know? Yeah, oh yeah, isn't that fun? That's a whole other industry.
Yeah.
Not successful. We're not Steven Spielberg.
Right.
But we're also not
But we got
waiting
paid.
tables.
I got paid to write the movie.
Paid.
Exactly.
See, that's what I started becoming less afraid when I realized how much work there was that nobody sees.
That's right.
So I felt like when Rana and Beverly broke up about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe, and then when my Ren Fair show, I finally got to produce it. You can get it on Amazon Prime for, I think, the 1 season. You can get it for $29.99 or $9.99, depending on what you.
I would prefer the $9.99 version.
Sure. Either way, it's 10 full episodes. It's like Freaks and Geeks, 1 season, in and out, in and out. When that was made and happened and aired and nobody saw it, and it was not promoted. It was on a dying network. It was just kind of came and went without a breath, a whisper.
Right.
This was right around the beginning of the pandemic, and I fell apart because I was like, wait a minute. I've always been able to rely on Rana and Beverly, and I've always been able to rely on, I'm just going to have to keep pushing that Ren Fair thing, because those are the things that seem to underpin all of my motivation. But
in the meantime, you were getting work and being on shows and being.
Yes, this was, again, probably misguided, but in my mind, it was only because of those 2 things. I had attached my identity to those calling cards.
Right.
And the truth is I think because I had always leaned on one or the other in those times when I wasn't working regularly as an actor, which I always call myself a career guest star because, it's very rare that I got as a series regular on something that went. That happened twice. And again, 1 season wonders, never happens. So, but again, I always felt like, the first thing I would do on those shows is like, you have to come see my old comedy show. Like, I just was so attached to those being where my worth was.
Right.
So when they went away, I sat there and I thought, oh my God, I don't know what I can generate anymore. Now, maybe I'm just going to be an actor who's dependent on other people just casting me as an actor with no special sauce. And I just fell into a deep hole trying to figure out if that was going to be enough. And I also had to reclaim the fact that even though those were specific stories and characters, what I had learned from doing them was a whole other skill set that could be applied in other places. So what had happened was, this was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and you would have had to pull me off the floor at this time. If I was up, it was because I was pretending to be normal for my children.
Okay. Which is a good skill.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's the other thing, is like you real fake it till you make it. Like, you have children.
Jamie's looking that way because Nick is our engineer is over there. He is completely naked, so she keeps looking over.
He is, and it's the don't be alone thing feels like I should be alone with Jay because this is
all right.
Terrifying.
Just ignore it. It's cool.
It's hard to ignore.
Yeah, that's
fully
all right.
naked.
Yeah, that's all right.
My agent, who was not my agent at the time because we went through the WGA thing of firing our agent.
That's right.
But she was a good friend.
Sure.
And she said, listen, I'm going to give you this information, not as my client. She said, Krista Vernoff. And I was like, Krista Vernoff, network television. Okay, she's a network television producer. She goes, yeah, they're looking for a comedic, high-level woman voice on her new legal 1-hour network drama. And I said, okay. And what would you like from me? I've never been in a writer's room that was not my own project. I certainly know nothing. You had me at legal drama saying no thanks. I was like, I said, first of all, she's not going to hire me. Second of all, how am I going to do that job? But the funny thing is I was so low and so scared of not taking an opportunity, or at least taking a meeting, because I thought, if she's dumb enough to hire me, maybe I'm dumb enough to do it. I don't know.
So your fear was, you're too afraid not to take the meeting as opposed to too afraid to take the meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because I thought, well, I've already been rejected in all of the other worlds. Like, what am I supposed to do? If I don't take someone saying, we might have a job for you, and I don't take it, I'm afraid that my family won't eat.
Right.
You know, my husband's got a very unreliable career these days. It's not his fault.
Sure.
It's just that's that business.
Right.
He's more of an actor, and I'm more of a writer. Always have been.
Right.
And so I took the meeting. It was my first Zoom, which is hilarious.
He's killing it on Twitter, though.
Ugh, please. You know what? With the social media, stop it. All of you children with your social media.
All right.
He is. He's got a good progressive mind.
Yes, he does.
I took the meeting. I was myself. I didn't pretend that I knew about the law. And she said, I don't know about the law. We have we have a lawyer.
Right.
He comes in and you write legal, and they fill in the. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. It was such a good experience. It was all during the pandemic. I worked on this legal drama. It was called Rebel. It ran for one season with Katie Seagal and Andy Garcia. And it was nothing. If you had said to me, you're going to be working on a legal network drama as a writer, I would have said, that will never, ever, ever happen. I don't know how that would happen.
Right.
And then when that show went away, she also runs Grey's Anatomy. So she put me on Grey's Anatomy in the same kind of position. Now I write medical drama.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's so good.
And what's been really amazing for me is recognizing that the skills I picked up as Beverly and the skills I picked up from the Ren Fair experience really complement what I do now.
Telling stories.
Telling stories.
Yeah.
And I'm a mimic.
Right.
I was mimicking so many people in my life. You're mimicking a voice when you come into somebody, even if it's not funny or whatever. I mean, you're still mimicking the character's voice. You're really tuning in. I mean, I've been doing voices for other people my whole life. That's what I do.
That's exactly right.
So
Staff writing is about mimicking voice, but it's also about mimicking the showrunner's voice. In other words, you're understanding what the showrunner, how they write, and their cadence and what they think is interesting, and you're trying to feed them the stuff they like.
And to come full circle, I've just recently started to bring, Beverly was kind of in a coma for a while. And I've started to bring her back because I do miss performing. And now that live performance is back and up and everything else, I'm bringing Beverly back, but as a solo act. And the storytelling.
I'm also doing a Beverly show.
Okay,
is that
that's
weird?
A little weird.
Okay, all right, it's fine. It's all good.
Okay.
But I figured once it was gone, it was dead. It was fair game.
No, definitely. No?
Okay,
we'll
all right.
Off the
All right,
air?
good,
I
yeah.
mean, I guess we'll. Okay.
Yeah, all right, we'll
now
see.
it got weird. No, so I'm bringing her back, and I did a live solo show recently in Brooklyn, but the skills I picked up at Grey's have helped me with that.
That's great.
Because creating a narrative that has beginning, middle, and end, creating these short scenes that Grey's is sort of actually made of, when you have all these little scenes, I felt like I could inform the solo show in a much stronger way than I ever would have before. Because before it was an improv act where we were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There was definitely a story, but this, when you're performing as a solo anything, you have to give the audience a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're a really fucking great stand-up. And my favorite stand-ups still give a beginning,
Of course,
middle, and
they do. You have to finish.
Yeah.
Certainly you have to finish.
Yeah.
And your finish has to do with something you said earlier.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like because Grey's has given me so much instinct for that this incarnation might even be better. So I now know that I'm capable of more things.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I was here to tell you weren't capable of more things, but that's so good that now I think it's different. No, you were always capable of
Well,
amazing
you think
things.
that, which is really nice to hear, Jay. You're
I've
so
always- I remember
confident.
you telling me it was a few years ago. I was like, I wrote this thing, and you was like, and you weren't thrilled about that. It's like, I don't think it's any good. It's like, of course it's good. And it's like, fuck. I read it, I liked it. And I was thinking, I should find something to write with her. She's so
How'd
good.
you get over your fear of everything? Is it masochism?
It's a little bit my fear of sucking has been diminished by years of improv. In other words, the idea that you have to get on stage and just do it. And hopefully it'll be good, but if it's not good, there'll be the next improv. So it'll be all right.
Improv is really, it's like in Ted Lasso when Danny Rojas is like, football is life. Improv is life.
It is. So I'm, without having done improv, which gave me a lot of things about writing and character and other things, but it gave me the idea that you just do. You try and you do. Now, it doesn't mean that when I start a new script, I'm not scared shitless. And where I'm on like the blank page in that moment, think that, in this moment, this will be my last script because they'll read it and realize I suck. But the moving forward, I'll tell you the other things that helped me. I promised somebody a script, and so I have to do that. Or I said I would show up to audition, and I would probably have to show up.
I'm really afraid of disappointing people on a very basic level.
So, but I really, that helps me. So that gives me, I don't want to disappoint people, and I want to sort of show up, and I owe somebody something. So I'll put it down. And while I hate it in the moment, I have learned to sort of get in the writing of it, like certain parts of it, and then rewrite certain parts of it and cut out the stuff so eventually I fall in love with the thing that I'm writing. But I start out really, really hating it and being scared of it.
I understand.
And so
I think the improv thing is really, it just reminded me of something else, which was that after the Ren Fair, I went and worked at Walt Disney World in Orlando for 2 years.
Right.
You think it's a weird transition, a weird turn, but it's
Seems
almost
like the same thing.
It is a little similar. Yeah. So I got hired to work as part of an interactive show called Streetmosphere at MGM Studios.
Oh, we all know Streetmosphere.
Hold your laughter, nudist.
We all know Streetmosphere.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were themed entertainment, interactive artists, improv, whatever.
I'm a Misferian, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? How dare you? So we would do that, and then there was also a comedy club. There was this is before it became like all shopping and downtown Disney stuff in Orlando.
Yeah.
They had what was called Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
Sounds dirty, isn't dirty.
I've been there.
Okay, so they had a dance club, and they had an adventurers club where it was like celebrating the imperialists and like toasting the African artifacts stolen on the wall, that kind of thing. And then they had a comedy club that was improv. It was Whose Line Is It Anyway?
But
short
they
form.
also had stand-ups there, right?
They occasionally would have stand-ups, but every night of the... First of all, the other thing that I also remembered recently, it like came back to me in a flash, was that every night was New Year's Eve. Like that was the theme. That was like the theme of Pleasure Island, but regardless.
Okay.
What they had was they had 6 45-minute improv shows a night. And there was like an ensemble of like 12 of us.
Right.
And you would be on staff and you would do 4 or 5 45-minute improv shows every single night.
Wow.
Which means that, and you're working clean.
Right.
It's boot camp.
Right.
I mean, not every one of those shows is going to be good. In fact, most of them are going to be terrible.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. If you describe hell to me, it's 5 improv shows stuck in an Orlando island.
And I did it from the ages of 22 to 24. And it was talk about boot camp. It's like what you're saying. It's like, you know what? I don't have time to be afraid because I have to get back up there in 20 minutes. So I can't even lick my wounds. So, it was a lot of rhyming. There was a lot of rhyming involved. Right. But it was like, it really was, and I did it, that job I did for about a year. So the fear part went away.
Repetition helps you eliminate some fear. I keep saying to my son and other people, like, repeat. Repeat.
Yeah.
Fail and repeat.
Practice.
Good. If you get accepted, if you get rejected, go for another, put yourself out there again. Put yourself out there again. That goes with all things, with work, with life, with dating, everything. You just have to keep putting yourself out there.
It becomes less scary. It just does. And again, like, there was something I remember, like, it was, to me, that was the coolest job you could have at Walt Disney World.
Right.
Was like being one of those, like, jokey people, those really smart seeming people, and they are smart actually. I'm still friends with a lot of them, but like they seemed like the smartest kids in that world.
Can I disabuse you of the notion it was the coolest job in the world?
Sure.
Okay.
It was
great.
the coolest job at Disney.
Okay,
oh
sure.
no, not
All
in the
right,
world.
yeah.
No,
All right,
not in the world.
good.
I mean, John Still's like, where'd you do your comedy at Disney? And I'm like, at the Who, What, and Warehouse.
Right.
We were there that's where you stored your comedy in the Comedy Warehouse.
The Who, What, and Warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, not cool at all.
Okay. All right.
Not
That's
cool
great.
at all. Yeah.
But you do it and you do it and you do it and you get rejected or you get accepted and you do it
And
and
then
you do it.
you find that you're like, well, now I'm really good at this what I thought at the time, shockingly, was a very useless skill. Like, I can rhyme some stuff and I talk to an audience if someone wants me to,
Right.
I guess. But
That's good.
turns out it was much, much more.
Yeah.
Right? Because improv helps. Writing, it helps. Social interaction, it helps. Communication, it helps. I think parenting, I think it helps all kinds of things.
It's interesting. How does it help your parenting? Just to be able to go with
Be playful.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it helps you be more flexible. It helps you adapt to situations. I think once you've done the exercise where, like, I mean, the short form game of, like, what is this? Like, you turn, it's so dumb. You're going to love this one. Okay. You know, what is it? It's a dick. It's a phone. It's
Right.
it's a rocket
Right.
ship. Whatever. You know, when you're getting down on your knees with a kid and you're like, how can I make this? The kid is having a tantrum or whatever. It's like, there's just more ideas that come. And
Yeah, and improv is playing, and kids love to play, and you get in touch with your playful nature as an adult when you start doing improv games and all that kind of stuff. So that, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think so.
At first I thought you were crazy, but now I'm thinking you're
but
right.
Now I've explained it.
Exactly.
The end. We did it.
That's awesome.
There's our sign off.
In your current incarnation, working at Grey's Anatomy, are you still are you free of fear or anything when you pitch an idea or turn in your script? Are you just like, is it all groovy and fine?
Yeah, I mean, I've also learned to take. I mean, part of also my after my rock bottom was I had to learn that criticism and constructive criticism are really not nuclear bombs in your
Right.
face. Like I was the kind of personality, and I think a lot of children who grow up to perform grow up maybe walking on eggshells in their home. And so because of, for whatever reason, it could be complicated parental marriage, it could be addiction, abuse, whatever, who knows? It could just have been a house where your parents maybe weren't fulfilling their own dreams. I don't know. But it seems to be a personality type where you are afraid of being yelled at. And what that translates to in adulthood is if someone is mad at you, it is intolerable.
Yeah, that's me, by the way.
It's devastating.
Yeah,
It
I
is-
I
Right.
cannot be yelled at.
Correct. Right. It is, I have a couple of notes for you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. I'm going to kill myself for you. It's, you know, what I've been able to practice at Grey's Anatomy, because it's not my show, it's its own
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
I can't possibly please my bosses all the time. Even if I was some kind of like savant for Grey's, it's still not my show. I would make mistakes. And I have learned that it's okay. And
Right.
it's not the end of the world. And also, a lot of those times I can take that criticism, oh, okay, let me try it again. Great, that's what we were looking for. And sometimes give it to another writer. You know what I mean?
It's not the end of the world is a really good thing to hang on to. I mean, if anybody wants to do anything and they're thinking it's going to be the end of the world or it's going to be a disaster, then they won't do anything.
No.
So hang on to the idea that it's going to be fine regardless. No matter what happens, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And anticipate it's not going to go well, and that's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't mean that you're not good at this.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't bring value and worth in other areas. I mean, that was something I really had to wrap my brain around, was like, I want to be good at this whole job. Just got here.
Yeah.
Never worked on a medical drama. It's 17 seasons before I got there, which I had to fast forward and watch. Like, I had to basically catch up on.
All 17 seasons?
I fast forwarded a lot.
Yeah, come on.
But
You
I
can
read
read
the
the
synopsis.
summaries?
Yes, I
It's-
did.
yeah, yeah.
I did. And I watched a lot of the iconic
And isn't there
episodes.
some person in the room who knows everything from all 17 seasons
100%.
anyway?
Yes, we have
so
a
you
few
can
of
just
those.
pitch
Yep.
that as we did that before.
Absolutely.
Okay, forget it.
But like, you want to be pleasing. You want to make it worth their while that they brought you here. And what I've come to realize, I've been there for 2 years. I'm going to go back when the strike is over. I don't know. There are certain skills that I bring because of the experiences that I've had.
Right.
And there are some skills that I really need to work on. You know, I that I'm not great at yet. Maybe I'll never be great at them. But that's okay too, because there are people there who have those skills and they don't bring what I bring. And so I never thought that my acting experience, because again, journeyman guest star, over 100 credits, but that makes me very comfortable on a set. Makes me very comfortable when I'm producing an episode. Whereas sometimes the most incredible writers in our room, it's their hell to be on a set, because they're introvert, who knows what, like their communication skills are not the same, or they don't know what a flag is, or they don't know what what the DP does, or whatever. I'm not saying, by the way, if anyone's crazy listening to this, I'm not saying that you don't know what the DP does.
No, you're calling them idiots.
Okay. I didn't really call them idiots. I'm apologizing for calling you idiots.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I bring...
By the way, my entire audience is the Grey's Anatomy writing staff. That's
weird.
the only people who
That's very
listen to
weird.
the show.
Hey, Mark, what's going on? Julie, I took a scone from your office.
Right, sure.
It was really good. Sorry.
No, it's great to be on. Like, it's my heaven is to be on set.
Oh,
Always, I love it.
I mean, and I also have a fundamental comfort with it that I think is not as natural to people who just haven't been on it as much.
Yeah.
And
That's how I feel when I'm on set. Having been an actor, that like I can talk to actors and be much more comfortable with them. I don't say it like this. We talk about, like, okay, here's the scene, here's your motivation, can you do it? Can we put a little bit more energy? There are other things that you say to somebody who, because you respect their process.
Well, it was so interesting.
Thing.
I think when I first realized this whole idea was, I did the showrunner training program at the WGA, which is was a really great program. I don't know if it's, how they do it now, but I did it because American Princess, my show, was going, the one that's available on Prime Video
for $29.99.
I think $29.99.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I applied and fortunately got in, because
I went every other episode. Is it like half price?
What's wrong with you?
I
specifically said, I was like, you cannot let me into this program, but like, you're basically letting the train run off a cliff, because I don't know what I'm doing. So they let me in. So I went in, and I was one of only like maybe 2 actors who were there. 30 people, and they were all like really had come up through the writers' trajectory.
Right.
They came in through, they were a writer's assistant, and then they were a staff writer, and then they were this level, and then there were people who like had only been in the Berlanti camp, and one person had never been on a show that went for more than 1 season. And I was like, I'm an actor. But again, like, there was a whole session on communicating with actors, and people were like taking notes, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, interesting, because it's its own skill that I took for granted.
Yeah,
So.
know it. We bring our experience,
Yeah.
and that experience can often be helpful.
Well,
and then
I'm also just less afraid because I'm a lady of a certain age, Jake.
I'm a lady of a certain age. And
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it feels good.
I do think of you as very vagina friendly.
Thank you very much. There's another section of our show that I like to do. It's called Question Time.
Oh boy.
So now you get to pick from these categories. Big questions. Well, you'll pick a letter and you'll pick a number. But the categories of questions are strange questions, history questions, life challenges, joy, curiosity, friendship, and big life questions. So I want you to pick a letter between A and G. And it could be A or G, but A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know how the alphabet goes, right?
Can I tell you something? I literally was like, H, because
No.
something's wrong with me. Okay.
H is the one letter you can.
Okay, D.
D. Okay, and a number between 1 and 18.
16.
Okay, so question D16 is, the category is joy.
Oh, good.
And how do you approach the balance between work and leisure time, and what strategies do you use to ensure you have enough time for joy and relaxation?
Oh, gosh, that's such a good question.
You know who thought of it?
Jake Hogan.
AI.
Shut the fuck up.
Honestly. Chat GPT.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, over the years, I have come to understand that I'm actually a morning person. I used to make fun of my dad my whole life because the man was up at 5 o'clock every morning on the dot. No alarm, just up. Like, we'd be up, he's been up for 3 hours.
Right.
And I grew out of that. And in these past few years, fucking 5:30 in the morning, this
you go.
bitch is wide awake.
Right. All right.
Like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when I go to sleep. Who cares?
And what are you doing at that time?
I have a routine. I make myself coffee. I take care of the dogs. I sit. I read news headlines. I sometimes remember my gratitude list. It's really
All right,
important.
good. Uh-huh.
And then slowly everybody kind of comes to. But I'm also, in realizing that I'm a morning person, my most productive time is the morning. If I'm not writing, or unless I'm on script, and then it's kind of whenever, it's all
Right.
day or whatever. But like, if I'm working on my own creativity and my own projects, after 2:00, she's done.
Right.
It's over.
That's
It's
right.
over. It's just not how I roll. And in embracing that, I have found that my joy is in the later afternoon and evening. So it's like I will, and I love Los Angeles. Your town
I'm
is
glad
my
you
happy
liked
place.
Los Angeles.
I'm a Los Angeles apologist and an a connoisseur.
Me too.
Love it.
Me too. I understand why people hate it here, but I love it.
I'm also like, if you hate it, you can go. Like, what are you, an actor, a writer? We have so many.
Right.
We're
That's
good.
true.
We're full.
That's right.
Actually, we have plenty.
Yeah.
You're good. Go back
Yeah.
to New York.
No,
I
but
know. What, you missed the subway?
It's a big place. It's hard to find a center of gravity here. I get all that.
Okay,
but-
well, that's your problem. No, there's so much joy in Los Angeles that is unique for me, maybe because I did not grow up here.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think that the Korean spa is like the greatest thing that's ever I will use, my joy is
Yeah.
like, I'm going to go get a massage at the Korean spa. It's so crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you've been doing it for 25
Right,
years.
exactly.
So like, that's where I find joy.
Right.
I love it. I love the beach is my joy. I will take a computer and go to the beach.
So you're saying that you morning is work, afternoon, evening is more relaxation, and then you just forget about the kids?
Oh fuck! Do I have to talk about those kids? Yeah, I guess the kids are joyful.
Yeah.
No,
they don't. I'm not saying they're joyful, but like, at what point do you say, did somebody do their homework, or you know?
well, who has homework anymore, Jay? No, man. We
Okay.
don't have homework because we don't have homework now, man. We watch Jaws and I mean, I want to die.
Okay.
My son goes to a school that had no homework.
Okay.
Your academic standards in the state, I do have an issue with them.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
It feels like all my friends' kids back east are significantly smarter.
My kid is a super genius.
I know he is.
So
We're not talking- all
I
right.
would beg to differ.
Okay.
But all right. But it's like, I get it.
I
get
think
it.
if it's not Harvard Westlake,
Yeah.
it's bad.
All right, maybe.
I think and I think that goes across the board for public and the fancy privates,
Yeah.
which are now like solely
I
focused
know a lot
on.
of kids who got, Charlie goes to a fancy university,
I know he
and a
does.
lot of those kids went to California public schools.
Yeah, but that's an exclusive university. You can't talk to you because I'm talking about normal children.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
But my son is in 7th grade last year. He read one book.
Okay.
One.
Was it like a thin book?
Wasn't thick.
Okay. What was the book?
It was A Long Walk to Water.
Okay. All right.
I was like,
And did he actually read it?
He did. Well,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, he had plenty of time to because he had no fucking homework. So he's going to a different school this
All
year. Anyway, the point is, yes, my children are. Of course they fill me with joy. I like to adventure with them. Like
Good.
I'm a planner. Like if we're gonna have a weekend day that's coming up and there's nothing happening and I can see that there's a big white space, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go to a museum or we're gonna go to the beach or we're gonna make a plan with these people and we're gonna spend the day. Because I don't do well sitting around the house with just like.
And are they
everybody.
happy to go along, or are they whiny? And...
Oh, at this point they know that they don't have a choice.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mostly, yeah,
So
they're good.
you-
They're good adventurers.
You bring the hammer down.
a little bit.
Okay, good. All right, that's
I
nice.
do.
All right.
You have to see your world.
All right.
You know, I mean, I also was parenting, and I feel like your son is a little bit older, but like in the age of like hardcore neurosis about everything, and I just don't want them to be afraid to be independent and to go out into the world and to drive. and all
How
those
do
things.
you get them to be communicative and be friends with people that not just texting, but like in person or phone conversations or things where they're actually spending time with?
If I would say for my kids, it hasn't been sports. I think if you have sporty kids, you're really lucky because you're getting social interaction mixed with physical interaction. Like there's no other you can't be on your fucking phone while you're manning first plate.
Right.
You know what I mean? First plate.
It's base.
base.
It's base. Yeah.
Right. As I said, we're like not
Boston's
sporty.
not much of a baseball town, so I get it.
I mean, you see why I had to leave, right? It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
we're musical theater people.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean? We're theater people. So we have encouraged, and it's worked. And our daughter, like, she does production. She did a play outside of school where it was like a student run production.
Right.
And like our son did a show he did like it was a Valley. It was actually in the Valley. It was called Act One. He did Little Shop of Horrors. Like, and basically he didn't want to audition. Hilariously, he didn't want to audition. And I was like, look, I'm no stage mom. I said, you have to do something with a group of human beings.
Right.
I don't care what it is.
Right.
What do you want to do?
Right.
Do you want to do soccer?
Right.
Well, you can.
Right.
I'll figure it out. But I was like, it's got to be something. He was like, no, I like Little Shop of Horrors. Meanwhile, he was
awesome.
Seymour and he was terrific.
Oh, fantastic.
But like, that was 3 hours, 3 times a week. So it was like, it encourages. And then who he's texting with the rest of the time are those kids.
Right.
So I know that there's a combination of all that behavior. And and I also have been forcing my children to go to overnight summer camp forever.
That's great.
Because no phones
Right.
and nothing but interaction and social
Because I think people, adults too, but mostly kids lose or don't have the ability to socialize as well anymore because they are like these machine zombie people that they don't know what it's like to even hear a snarky comment or hear a compliment or hear something genuine or hear something. Reading text is not the same thing as communicating.
There's energy passing between us right now, all around us. A lot of it's perceptible and a lot of it's imperceptible. Like the tiny way that I can see that like your eyes are blinking. Like we've given up so much to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
We've given up so much.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe, and I've been sort of make no mistake. I have my fucking phone right there. I'm going to check it the second this stuff.
You have a phone?
Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry, nudist.
Bragging.
Except he's holding his phone on his ears.
That's a shy.
I've tried to scare them significant. Like I feel like I've been trying to instill, knowing that I was going to lose this battle.
Right.
We're all losing, right?
Right.
No one's winning. I've tried to make the experience this much less enjoyable. It's like drugs. For me, I was scared straight. I went to health class in 7th grade in 1987. I was told, if you do any LSD, it will lodge in your system and then you'll have a flashback like 20 years later.
Right.
Probably that won't happen. I still think it maybe can.
Sure.
To me, it was, you can get AIDS from a toilet seat. I know that's not true.
Right.
But it made the experience of casual sex this much less enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like just knowing that so since the beginning of phones, I have been like, it's not real. Everything about it sucks. By the way, anything you put in text, anything could be on a billboard on Sunset Boulevard. Anything. Digital, not a digital footprint. It's a digital it's a digital tattoo.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
they hate me
Sure.
when I talk about it.
Okay.
But I think it's ruined them a little bit, which is good.
All right, fair enough. That's nice that they live in fear and then they'll have something to rebel against you.
Exactly.
So that's
I
very
also think that, don't you think that our kids, and maybe you're experiencing this already, is there any kind of like movement towards, hey guys, we're going to have like an unplugged night, so everybody leave your phone at the door and we'll just talk by candlelight? Do they do that? I have this feeling that maybe that will happen in the future.
They do. I think they do. That happens.
That's what's cool now.
Yeah. Yeah, that does happen. I mean, not with me, because I take my phone everywhere.
Well, you and
love it.
it's over. No one
Exactly.
cares. It's done.
It's
over.
true.
I mean, I'm in perimenopause. I'm useless.
My son is very good at one-on-one, and I think he's not even great with the texting. So he prefers to be one-on-one, but he still, I don't think he has nearly as much socializing as I did. Like when I was a kid, that's all I did.
And yet you were afraid of opening your mouth and asking for a date.
Yes, that's true. But I didn't know back then what I know now. If I could talk to myself when I was 17 now, I would say, they're just as insecure. Just, ask that person out. Ask that other person out. Just keep going until somebody says yes.
And by the way, you'll get rejected, and who cares?
There was a guy who did an experiment where he asked people to tell him no every day, multiple times a day. So he would say, he would call people up and say, will you help me move my couch? And they would say, no. Great. And he would just want to hear no. And he would ask strangers things that they would say no to. So he got used to the idea of no. And he actually said it improved his life by 1,000 times because he was no longer afraid to ask things or say things and ask questions because
He's a genius.
Yeah. It was
That's amazing.
It was a few years ago somebody did this, and I thought, and I've said this to many people: just keep asking, get rejected, get used to rejection, and then at some point, and he actually had this too. He said, "Will you help me move my couch?" Some people said yes. He wanted to know, and people said yes. So that was amazing. Anyway, we're almost out of time. Thank you for coming to the Don't Be Alone penthouse. It's fabulous.
It's a little too
in the
sexy
Don't
for
Be
the
Alone
title.
Tower. There has been no. Don't Be Alone is not as creepy as it sounds. This is about connectivity. This is not about,
I just got it.
Yeah, all right. There you go. Whew, there's a lawsuit. Last thing before we say goodbye, and thank you again for being here. You're so nice.
Thank
I
you for
called
having
you
me.
for like out of the blue, and you said yes. It was so nice. I risked rejection, and you said yes.
See? Well, no, you're not afraid.
I'm not afraid.
I'm not afraid either.
Okay, well, that's
I'm
good.
just not. It's gotten much easier. Age helps with that so much.
That's true. Now that I'm old, I care so much less about what people think of me.
Well, yeah, and also we've managed to think about the people that we've hung on to despite our greatest fears. Some of the people that are still giving you a delightful response. It's like, oh, okay. So then some people will say no and some people, I don't care anymore. Who cares? Who cares? It's over.
cares?
It's over. The world's over.
Okay, so this is what brings you joy. So bring the joy. This is a little segment. So is there something, I can go first or you can go first, your choice, about what brings joy to you? We talked a little bit
Do
about
I only
it.
say one thing?
You can say more than one thing,
Okay.
but you want to go first? Or would me? Because my thing is really simple.
Yeah, go yours.
Mine is very simple, which is I have never been anywhere where I saw the sunset and I was not thrilled and joyed. It just doesn't happen. I don't care whether I'm in an office watching the sunset go down, or whether I'm at the beach watching the sunset, or whether I'm, at the car repair place and watching the sunset. There's something peaceful and beautiful about that golden light that just washes over you. Go like, this is awesome. Simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fucking ice cream, man.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Wherever I am in the world, they've got their version.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try it.
That's
and I'm
right.
going to love it.
Yeah. Ice cream is
Because
good.
there's really not like a bad ice cream experience where you go, I mean, maybe the flavor wasn't exactly what you wanted, but you ate it.
Right.
I ate the whole thing
Sure.
and licked the bowl.
Right.
Like, that's how it goes. In fact, I'm so delighted
Yeah.
by the fact that I was so wrong about. So I live right near Larchmont, and we had a Jenny's and we have a Salt and Straw. Not my favorites, but of course they'll do.
Right.
And I was like, we don't need it. They're putting in a gelato place. This is ridiculous.
Right.
We don't need another goddamn ice cream place. This is outrageous. And I
Right.
see that there's a line, and I'm like, all right.
And you tried it.
It's the most delicious gelato
Okay.
I've ever had in my life. I'm delighted.
So gelato.
Yeah.
Frogurt?
Sure, if
All
it's
right.
good.
All right.
I like Go Greek.
All right.
It's really good.
Oof.
You don't like Go Greek?
It's everything that's good about ice cream is no longer there in the Go Greek.
Fair enough. Yeah,
It's
just have
like
ice cream. I also am a little bit like, can we just be honest with all the like fancy ice creams and just be like, yeah, Haagen-Dazs is kind of the best one.
Haagen-Dazs is great.
It's delicious.
It's fine.
It's fine. I like
Baskin Robbins is good.
yes.
Rite
it is.
Aid sends a very fine ice cream.
Thrifty?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
Best.
So
What I'm
it's-
saying is
yeah.
you don't have to have like goat cheese and olive oil from Salt and Straw to have a good experience. I can have fucking chocolate chip
As a matter of fact, the fancier flavors of Salt and Straw are a little bit disappointing. I got to be honest.
and disgusting. Just stop it. Not everything has to be frozen with cream.
It's hard to charge $15 for ice cream unless there's special ingredients inside of it.
And I also like it when they do like their fresh whipped cream because it's not too sweet.
Yeah, I get it. Well, thank you, Jamie Denbo. You're the best.
You're the best, Jay
lovely
Hogan.
for
Thank
being
you so
here, and
much.
thank you for not being alone with me, or being alone with me, or sort of being alone.
What was it like being on set at The Simpsons?
There's no set. It's an animated show. Don't
No,
you understand anything?
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
I meant
see-
to ask you earlier.
Yeah, no,
but
it's not. But it
Okay.
was great. It was great.
Oh,
Let's
okay,
just say
cool.
it was great. It was
Amazing.
great.
I'll
Okay.
tell everyone at Grey's
All right.
Anatomy. Bye, Mark. Bye, Julie.
Anyway, yes, goodbye, all these grays, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.